Alright, hello everyone and welcome to the Heart of Scrolls Badgercast. We are back to bring you guys original Scrolls content for some of the top players in the game today. My name is Colorplant and I will be your host for this evening. And in light of the design competition that's ending this Sunday, we are going to do things a little bit differently. This time we're going to be going through some of our favorite scrolls that we have picked out, or at least our three guests have picked out. And we'll also shortly discuss what makes a good scroll, really, and what we like in a scroll that makes us think it's fun and good and all that. So, our first returning guest is our lovely chap, the Overlord.
Hello!
Hello, man. And our second guest, Cantor, still has not grown back to full beard, but we'll love him anyway.
It's a true tragedy.
1 week here.
Yeah, it's on its way. Maybe in a couple of weeks.
Little baby fledgling beard. It's crawling its way back.
Yeah. And the last but not least is Clever US. And if you have been following the subreddit lately, you might have catched Clever's new kind of web series where he starts from scratch and scrolls and builds his way up. I've found it interesting, and you probably will too. Hi, Clever, and welcome to the podcast.
I personally found it very interesting. Let me just say, it's really fascinating. I watched it while just listening to my own voice. It's wonderful.
Super
it's good to be
value. Alright, nice. So we'll start off with our first segment, which we do every week anyway, which is basically what have you been playing this week, what have you been doing in Scrolls. And Cantor, what have you been doing this week? In Scrolls, that is.
Almost nothing, unfortunately. I've been really busy with school and procrastinating. I'm very busy procrastinating.
Okay.
That sort of thing. Yeah, busy shaving. It takes a long time. No, I haven't actually been playing Scrolls much at all the last week. I think it was during this last week, though. I had a few games with CISP on the testing grounds, trying out some different mono order decks. I've been trying. I was trying some mono order, seeing what types of order are good, and obviously the Overlord has some strong opinions there. A ton of experience, but yeah, thought I'd try and see for myself.
Alright, the Overlord, can I take a guess that you might also have been playing Order this week? Maybe?
Yes, although not to the extent I usually do. It's been mostly because of we have been tasked a little bit from our great guild leader to make groups and decks together. So there's been a lot of more theory crafting than usual, at least for my part. I don't know how the other groups have been performing. I'm sure you've been doing well, haven't you? Always active. And so that has taken a lot of time. So there's been a lot of debate for the most part, more than actually playing. But I played a lot. It's just that when you try to find something that it's like the deck, then there's a lot of more testing that you usually do with all kinds of stuff, which makes it a bit... Well, anyway, yes, I've been playing Order.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to every time. Alright, Clever, what have you been up to this week, except for your series, or, well...
Well, I was on spring break, and so I wasn't playing too much over spring break. A little bit of growth. I think the last time I played ranked was actually like more than a week ago because of that. But at that point I did switch back from energy to play some growth because I tried energy. It's great, it's fun, but it's not growth. And so that's where my heart is. But yeah, so I've been getting real acquainted with the Decay Precon deck, which is I can't even believe how god awful. It's like they have 22 1-cost cards in the deck. Half of the deck costs 1 Decay. It's like it's so skewed that the little curve in the deck builder, they have to like cram the numbers together at the top just to show how many 1-drops there are. So I'm not sure exactly what the thought process behind that was, but yeah, that's been what I've been up to.
At least the 1-drops are really good, right? No, we have Arthritis, Wicked Being.
Yep.
And all that good stuff. Alright, so that's what we've been doing. And before we go on to discussing the scrolls, I want to ask you guys what you think makes a good scroll. Like, there's a lot of things with a good scroll doesn't necessarily have to be like a competitively great scroll, but it has to be like, let's say a bunny. A bunny doesn't. Will never use a bunny in a competitive deck, but you're glad there exists a bunny because the bunny have created so much stuff around the community. Like there's own bunny meta, for example, and like what makes a good scroll with flavor, with faction specific mechanics, all that. Cantor, what do you think belongs in a really good scroll?
I think the first thing is the thing that stands out to me the most is like faction specific mechanics, like you touched on there. So things that really like tell you like this is a growth scroll. Like if it feels like what it's supposed to be, like if you just take a scroll from one faction and put it in another faction, like it's still just as strong a lot of the time, often stronger, but it wouldn't be as good a scroll in a way because then it has you have no idea why is it there? It doesn't make sense. Like, I don't know who I'm throwing under the bus when I say this, but there's a scroll, for example, in the design competition that's like essentially a polymorph that says like, turn this unit into a bunny. It's like, okay, and that's a growth scroll. It's like, it sort of makes sense. Like, bunnies, growth, removal and growth, but it's like growth doesn't remove units. You go kill them. Like, go kill your stuff. Kill them. Don't turn them into bunnies. Go kill something. Yeah, so making it really fit the theme of the resource I think is important. And then the other thing is like the sheer power level is important to me too, at least. To a point, because even if it's like the most fun card around, if it's
completely unplayable.
Yeah, if it's completely junk, then it's not a fun card if you can't play it. If you can't win using the card, it's not fun. Like you want something that feels like the faction, and also you can win with it. It's pretty important. Anyway.
Alright, so Cantor's advice to every growth players just to go kill stuff instead of turning it into bunnies.
Yep.
That's
worked for me. That's how I've always played it, so no complaints.
So what do you look for in a good scroll, Clever?
I think simplicity is really key. So there's a lot of scrolls in the design competition that are just like this huge wall of text. And that's not necessarily bad. Like, you can have a scroll that has a lot of description, a lot of different levels to it. You think about like Automata Forge or things like that. But what you do want is for it to be simple enough that it can kind of like, you can boil it down and make sense of it. And I don't know. I think that a lot of people have fallen into a trap in the competition where they kind of make things way too elaborate. And they have like 4 different effects going on at any given time, and all sorts of little exceptions that are supposed to take place. Like, so I think simpler is better for the most part. And that's what's really tough, right? Is that you have to take some kind of cool, unique idea and cram it down into a very simple design.
All right, the Overlord. A good scroll, a nice scroll, a fun scroll.
I think we are tying in 2 questions here in my feeling, which is not really the same answer I will give, and that is what is in my opinion a good scroll, and what am I looking for in the design competition. Those 2 is actually not the same. A good scroll for me is like Cantor was talking about. When it comes to flavor and stuff, and when it is a scroll that performs well at what it is supposed to do. A refined strategy is prime example of that. I think is good at it. But what I really like with the scroll, for the most part, that goes all is when it is a flexible scroll. If it is a scroll that is flexible, I often like the scroll because I like when they are flexible and you can do stuff. A lot of stuff with it, because then you can brainstorm a lot and come up with a lot of stuff. If you do not have many flexible scrolls, then it becomes very limited what kind of decks and stuff you can do. So I often enjoy, for the most part, flexible scrolls. Now, when it comes to design competition, what I'm looking for there, it's actually, for the most part, if I see a scroll and I'm like, is this overpowered or underpowered? I'm not sure. Then that piques my interest, and that is when I get hooked on something. I'm not sure if it is good. I need to spend a lot of time thinking about it, but that is at least what hooks me up when it comes to the scrolls there.
All right. Well, I think we got a good enough idea about that, so we should probably just get on with looking at the scrolls. And I still don't know how we're gonna do this. To be honest.
Shall we start?
Do we just
with,
wait for him on stream?
Yeah. It was. This kind of became. I think Magpie and Smogan made a sort of scheme for this, but none of them is attending at the moment.
Yeah.
So
Like Ice Cream
we had
just
to
start
compromise.
showing.
I suppose unless Ice Cream or technician in this stream at the moment have made a specific so to speak settings for how they're going to be displayed. I guess we can start off with those we picked from our own scrolls, because we probably want to highlight them first. What we are thinking about them.
We've got some order scrolls coming up on the.
They're displaying,
stream
man.
now.
All right, let's talk about
yeah.
the order then.
Oh wow! All right, so let's start. Okay, things are coming and going. Let's start with.
Well, just sorry for interrupting you, but just to say this to the viewers, it seems like we are going through the scrolls we picked from others that we have not done ourselves. So some we have done ourselves. They may also be order or energy and so on, but they are probably not going to be displayed. We're going to talk first about those that the others have done.
So, Shim's Axe. Who picked Shim's Axe out of us?
I did. I picked Shim's X.
So why don't you explain yourself, Cantor?
I will.
Explain yourself.
Explain yourself. How dare you like Shim's Axe? All right, so
Was it that axe that shaved you?
Oh yeah, was that? Do you shave with an axe? That seems Canadian.
that I wish I shaved with an axe. It'd be amazing. I do not though.
No, or sidetracking.
All right, so Shim's Axe. I think this is sort of like what Clever was saying by keeping it simple. Pretty simple scroll. So it's a champion ring, and then if you have Dominion, it's also a fleetness. So I like that it has a connection with the Wings Cleaver unit. So that gives it some in-faction synergy. Some there's a word for this that I'm forgetting, but I'll get back to it in a minute. It'll come to me. And as well as it's since it keeps in theme with Order's ability to reduce countdowns on individual units. Also, it solves one of the problems that Fleetness has. Fleetness is a cool effect, and it's potentially a very powerful effect, but since it has no impact on the board the turn it comes into play, you set yourself up to be 2-for-1 a lot. But if you had, but with the champion ring effect, you can go and get yourself a kill, and then you at least are able to trade evenly. You can use that effect, even though it's a little bit overcosted at 3 for if all you're getting is the 2 extra damage. That if they don't answer it, then you get a fleetness unit, which is incredibly powerful. So I like that that interaction.
Yeah,
So that's why I picked Shim's Axe.
I think that's a good assessment. It's a simple card, but I like a simple card. No
Yeah.
complaints.
Simple card that knows what it wants to do and does it well.
Yeah, for what in my opinion, when it comes to Chimps Axe, is that I think it's balanced enough and good enough, and I would, if it existed, I would have uses for it. I think at least I will try it. I'm not sure I would run it, but I think I would deem it as a good card.
I think it would fit in aggressive
It's
decks
just
very
that I find it quite boring. So I just hope something a bit more interesting would come from the competition. That is just my feeling about it. But if it was chosen, it's a good card I would use, for the reasons you have stated.
Yeah, I think
Conflict
it's hard
is a
to
fun
figure
effect
out.
that you don't see all that often. Like, it's a fun effect, but you don't usually get to play it. So in that sense, I find it interesting because it's a fun effect. But, sorry to cut you off. Clever.
Or
Yeah,
sure.
I think it's hard to come up with something that's so radically new that also works. I would prefer to have some simple cards that are playable and interesting than some like completely out there cards that wind up being not so useful.
I'm on the total opposite opinion of that. But we are all. I don't remember the word for it. We have all our rights to our own opinion. Is like what I was trying to say.
I mean, I can understand where you're coming from too. Is that like Mojang? We can count on Mojang to come up with the solid, dependable Sisters of the Bear, and then we can like maybe come up with the crazy the wacky stuff.
To be fair, often Mojang is often the one that comes up with something really new and interesting, mostly because they know where they want to go with the game, while many in the community, they pick up on that and want to do something cool with that mechanic for the most part.
Yeah, there's a lot of resistance scrolls in this design competition.
Yeah, someone came up with resistance, and everyone wants that resistance in the game. Anyway, that's not here. Let's not talk about resistance because
Yeah,
we have not
let's,
chosen it here.
Actually, even move on to the next scroll, Disrupting Stone, which is when an opponent player casts a spell or enchantment, counter it, and sacrifice Disrupting Stone to cost 3 health.
Yes, that was mine. What I picked. I found it quite interesting because I think it's an interesting. I'm not sure. It's one of, as I said at the start here. I looked at it. I'm like, is this underpowered or overpowered? I'm not sure because it's a cool way to punish spells. Like you can use the spells, but the first spell you will use, I think it's an enchantment, or enchantment, it will be removed. So you can use a cheap one, but it still be a 1-for-1 trade, unless you're killing it with melee combat, and that is not too easy to always do. Just kill it. It's like, and if they make the mechanic so it is always removed what is chosen, then you cannot like burn it or whatever, because the burn will be removed before it can burn the stone. That is how I would interpret it to be. So, and that makes it quite. I thought that was interesting. I liked that, so I picked it.
What about? I think just countering a spell might be a little too good. So if you said like instead, when a spell is cast or enchantment is cast, make Disrupting Stone the new target instead.
See, I think it's okay because, personally, I think it might be okay just because, like, you get to choose what is countered, you know? Like, you can throw some spell onto it that doesn't cost a lot that you don't need. If it was, like, a surprise, like it was hidden somehow, then I would understand if maybe it was a little, like, maybe that would be too strong, but in this form, it's like, it just forces your opponent to play around it a little bit, and I think that's cool. I like it a lot, too, actually.
Yeah, I think the design is interesting, but as it stands, I don't think it would ever be played.
I would probably play it.
I think it's definitively underpowered, like, in my opinion, because you get the situation where, okay, you have a 2-cost card in your hand. It's this thing, you play it. Now your opponent, it doesn't do anything by itself. Like, it doesn't do anything until your opponent casts a spell. Your opponent knows it's on the board. They get to choose what spell to cast. So they get to 1-for-1 you. Like, the most you're going to get out of it is a 1-for-1, and it's a 1-for-1 that they choose, and they get to choose when it happens also. So you don't get any return on your investment until down the line, and they choose what that payoff is. So for those reasons, I don't think it would work very well. Also, it can be killed in melee combat. You have to defend it. It's 3 health for 2 cost, which isn't bad, but it's not good for a structure at all. So if you play this on an empty board, you're just gonna die. Like, I don't know. I don't see it.
And that is what I meant. We have one guy here that is saying it's too strong, and you saying it's too weak. It's why I was interested in it.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's a bad pick to talk about.
And personally, my own opinion is that I think it might be a little too weak or a little too strong, but it is fairly balanced enough. Because what this makes the opponent do, if I use this, then I know my opponent. It's unlikely that my opponent will use 2 spells or enchantment at the same turn on me, because that would be so costly for him. He needs to use something to remove the stone, and then if he used another spell or another enchantment, he has very little resources left to use creatures. So there's a lot of math you can do there with what kind of plays can he make with this. And it becomes quite predictable or limited, at least, so to speak. I at least use, and I will probably use it, but at the same time, I'm not sure. But I like.
I think it has uses. Like, the best use I can think of for it is preventing a growth player from god handing. Like, saying you only have 8 resources. If you want a god hand, like, you're gonna have to wait.
You're preventing Quake as well.
There's also
I think there's actually god hand. So there's that.
For me, my question is, like, don't most spells that end up getting played cost more than 2 to begin with? So aren't you kind of like forcing them to spend, like, what like in an energy deck? What spells do you have that cost 2? Maybe Spark if you're running Spark.
Yeah, exactly.
In a growth deck, you're not running. So it's like they're gonna have to trade a 3 cost or like even a 4 cost card just to get rid of the thing.
It's a matter of the delay. Like the delay before it activates, and like the fact that they get to choose what spell is less useful to them at that time. So like in sheer value, you might get a decent trade, but in other situations they would have sacked it. They're like, it's I think that it does have uses. I think there's a lot of scrolls in the game that you can think of situations in which they're useful, like Purification is useful, but it's almost always a trade. It almost always trades down. And like Heritage is useful, like it generates card advantage, but the fact that you don't get that payoff until many turns later, like, and your opponent can play around it a little bit, like it makes it so that it doesn't end up competing with the other scrolls already in the card pool. So I think this would be one of those scrolls.
I'm not going to go into debate about that, but I can go into a long debate with you about that.
We should probably not do that right now.
Follow up to the Hardest Scrolls
start.
podcast. We argue about Heritage.
To not be stuck on this stone so long, because we need to talk about the other cards. I'm gonna my last statement about it is that if they made the mechanic so this spell is countered before it is used on the stone, it is possibly too strong. If it is made so the mechanic so they can like burn the stone before the stone trigger the counter, then it is possibly too weak. That is my assessment on it.
I thought you were going to say that the stone was disrupting our podcast.
Nice.
I don't get it.
Not really. That's not really nice. I refuse.
I thought that was legit. I was waiting.
All right.
Oh yeah, because it's like
it's a
so
disrupting
clever.
stone.
Yeah,
So it's like
anyway,
never mind.
Someone else have a final word on it before we move on.
I think let's just move on. I think we've covered it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Move on then.
probably.
Mass recall.
So, yeah, I see people in chat saying it's not hard to pair scrolls to Hearthstone we're doing, but this last scroll right here is actually a scroll, a card. Like, directly the same thing. So who picked Magic? Clever.
But we only have one
Defend
guy.
yourself. You picked a stolen card.
Wait, what? The stolen card?
Like this is exactly
it's a
the same as a
stolen-
card in Hearthstone.
It's hard in lots of
Hey,
games.
okay,
Oh.
people. I must just say that, please. Hearthstone and World of Warcraft and all these things that Blizzard do, they are big and get spotlight, but they are not first. Learn that. They are not first. They are not the one to invent this stuff. People are not stealing from them. They were not first about that. They are stealing others and making it their highlight thing, and now people are like, oh, this is a Blizzard thing. No. Anyway, okay. Mass recall.
Okay, so I didn't know that this was a concept taken from somewhere else. I found this on page 11 of the thing. I was just going through, and this dude, his name is I think Onyx Blade. He actually came up with 2 scrolls I really liked. So 2 of my picks are from him, and so this is one of them. I guess this maybe the reason he was able to come up with it is because it wasn't original. But I like it. I like the idea. It's just a mass pushback. I think it fulfills a hole in Order's kind of game plan, as I understand it. And yeah, it's simple. It would have a big effect. It's the Order Quake, maybe.
It would have a huge effect.
It would be pretty cool, guys. I think it'd be pretty cool. Discuss.
In my opinion, I think it's a interesting card, but I'm not sure it's that. I think it's actually too good. I have to think a little bit about it, and I think it's too good.
Well, I think if it's too
because
strong,
you can use it the same way you are using Quake. It's just that this Quake, sure, you get the card back, so you have a card advantage. But that was a lot of resources they put out to get those cards out, and you just removed it.
So my question is, do you think that if you raise the cost, there would be a point at which it would be fair?
No.
I'm not sure. It would reach the fair cost of this. I would say is like 10 order, and I'm not playing something that costs 10 order. It's too high to reach.
Okay,
So-
now one more question. What if it was a surge card and it said random, each player like X number of random cards from each player, like kind of a surge? What is it? What is it even? The violent or the sudden eruption? It's like a sudden eruption, but it pushes things back on both sides.
I could see that possibly being a balance. You could possibly do something of that nature, but I will say, like, it's not that it has been stated anywhere, but I'm just feeling that search is not really a order flavor. Mostly because order is not anything about that kind of resource management. It's more, I could see search exist in something like decay and of course energy, but I'm not really feeling search when it comes to growth and order, but it's just me.
That also removes the symmetric effect, which I think is key to how that card
If
idea
you had
works.
search, you would have to like random from each board. So
Yeah, I was
maybe
thinking
it
random
takes-
from each side. It's just
Yeah.
it's a lot of tinkering. It's not probably even worth it, but just playing around with ideas.
like if you play the scroll, it would just go instantly late game, as you could probably set for resources every turn, and go both. Like players could go up to like 15 resources if they have like 7-8 scrolls just pushed back to their hand. It's kind of, it would change the whole game in like one scroll. Kind of, I'm sure if I would like that. It seems.
I think overall, when I think more about it, all kinds of math thing it should be treated with high caution. If we do like mass
I agree.
dispel or mass recall or mass, like we already have a mass, and that is Quake mass.
And everybody complains about it all the time.
It's like if we all kinds of scrolls that becomes a mass that you do it whole. They should be done very carefully, because they could very easily negate a certain aspect of the game because you can just mass content. So that is like my opinion of it.
Alright, should we move on to another faction?
No, let's be stuck
We're
with
all
this
done.
one for.
Yeah. Let's talk
Sure.
about this one for another 15 minutes and then rant about Blizzard. Alright, let's move on to energy. I want to say energy. I'm an energy player by heart, so I'm gonna say something cool.
Really? Okay, by the way, when we come to my energy pick, I think I need to describe it because the dude who... Look, you cannot make a so long description text that it doesn't fit on the scroll. Please fix that for something. But I get what he's
Who did
doing.
that?
And you still picked it? Oh,
Because I
saw that.
like the ID very much. I really like his ID, but goddamn this description.
Well, we do have scrolls that have
Well, we're-
descriptions
well,
outside
are they
the
coming up?
scroll.
Are we doing?
I think so. I hope so.
I see growth
The
coming up.
energy
I
scrolls
guess we're
are up
doing.
for
No,
me
he's switching to
now.
energy.
Well, you can guess which one was mine.
While we're
I
waiting,
think yours was the unstable power gem.
Indeed.
Oh, wow. Well,
I'm lagging behind then. If you guys have got those up already.
It's that
yeah,
Canadian
we
internet,
got him
man.
up now.
All right, there it is.
So again, I will explain unstable power gem because it's like this is what my
Yeah.
description. It doesn't-
Well, we won't start
yeah,
with
I've read
the
this
stable
one. This
power
one's cool.
gem. We're gonna start with ping.
Indeed.
All right.
Ping.
That's
Ping
me. I picked
exclamation
that one
mark.
too. It's from that same dude, Unexplained. My man, Unexplained, with his 2 posts on Scrolls Guide. I think that first one was probably also in the first design competition, if I had to guess. Anyway, I like the idea. We were talking about it. Maybe it's a little bit underpowered in its current form, but like an energy card that bounces back to your hand, the precedent's already there with Replicaton and stuff like that. I think it could be pretty cool. My proposed change to this card would be maybe making it 1 cost. Discuss.
My first reaction to this, but this is very like, just because I am playing Order, but I'm just seeing this being Bloody Cisp with his energy decay thing, doing that he's gonna use a what is it called, tainted bloodlines on my Order army and just do this ping all over the place. I'm gonna rage so hard, but okay. Beside that matchup, how useful is this? I think I like the idea that you get the card back when it's sort of it's another version of cantrip, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean
I think it's okay. I think it's kind of cool. It's nice.
I think it's also cool that it completes a cycle. Like burn, dark strike, ping would be like 2, 3, 4 cost. Does 1, 2, 3 damage. When if you kill something, you get a bonus effect. Like I think there aren't enough cycles in Scrolls. Like that's a thing that shows up in MTG, where they have like 1 card from each color that have some characteristic in common that forms a cycle that they call it. So that helps people like recognize the cards quickly and learn them. And I think that's a element of design that hasn't really been applied to Scrolls that they could do. So just things with the relating the cards that way.
And I think it really fits energy in that energy they are supposed to like gain card advantage without drawing cards, and this is one of those concepts. So it fits well there.
Yeah, I think
At
maybe
first
the
I-
balancing might be tough, but if they can figure out a way to make it work, like even maybe if it's like 2 damage for 3 costs, some kind of way to incorporate this idea. I think
No. I will say if you regain it from killing something, it needs to stay at 1 damage in my opinion. Even if it's like 4 cost, 2 damage, no, because you can like ping, you can use ping on growth all the time.
There's so many other things, yeah, so many other things.
So just 1, I would say.
When I first looked at it, I thought it was like strictly worse than Kabonk because you only get the draw when you kill something. But the fact that you know what the draw is going to be can be significant because then you can like plan your turn. You can be like, I have 14 energy this turn because I have Taya out and I'm
I
insane.
didn't think about
So-
that. You can kill 2 things and like you can use it multiple times in one turn as long as you can keep hitting things.
Yeah,
Like,
you
if you
can
had a-
Thunder
if you had a-
Surge.
Exactly, and then ping all the dudes who are left.
Yeah, you can. if
So
they have
we'll
a
leave
board
it at
full of,
2,
like-
gentlemen. Well, it's the
Yeah.
guy, the card designer knew what was best. Clearly, sorry.
Well,
I opened my
what
mouth.
I will say, what I do dislike with the card, if I gonna give some more negative about it, is that it really negates any creature play that has 1 health. It's already hard to make 1 health creature work in Scrolls, and this would make it really bad, because they can like for free almost kill your 1 health creatures. So
The bot already exists. Like they can
yeah,
already
but
kill
you
it.
can only use Kabonk once. While this you can keep on using. So any
But
sort
how
of
often
so
are they
an-
gonna like? I don't know. I feel like first of all, 1-cost creatures are so weak by themselves, and like that means you're never gonna have that many of them. So like
But
maybe your
that's my
Kabonk.
point. We already have that problem, and
I
it's
don't
not
think that
gonna
you-
get solved with this.
I
But
don't
what if
think,
that
like-
not a problem? What if like having
Yeah.
1 health is intentionally a weak point? I think
Nah,
I think it's
I
Having
think
1 health is
Mojang
never gonna work.
I think
anyway,
Mojang
so.
is smarter than that. They are not making creatures that are not meant to be played. That is like no. I don't think so.
But think about like
Alright, let's
even like damage.
move
Alright.
on.
Alright,
fine.
next one.
Move on.
Scroll. We have like 8 scrolls to go through, and we have like taken half an hour already. I
Yeah,
haven't seen
it's
all
what I
scrolls.
said. I'm pretty sure we're not
So-
gonna go through them all.
Yeah, I mean we should try. We have so
We should
look,
try it.
the Overlord. I think
Okay.
you can talk us through this one.
Okay, basically, think Fulmination Conduit. It's I'm not sure if he got inspired from it, but it's very similar to it. What it does, however, I like it more. What it does is, if I remember this, you have this totem structure with the 1 health, and you see that countdown and such, and it doesn't count. It doesn't count down or up. It just stays at 0. What you can do at the end of your turn or whatever left resources, I guess it's basically a search mechanic you can have on the card. You pump your resources into the card that you got as leftovers, so to speak, and then next turn they are put out again as extra resources for the next turn. And while it is the opponent's turn, if he kills the card, then let's say we used a turn and you had 2 resources left, so you put 2 resources into Unstable Power Gem. Then it will be a 2 countdown. If the opponent then kill the Unstable Power Gem that turn, then it will deal 2 damage in its surroundings, in its adjacent tiles. If not, then next turn the energy player will have 2 resources more than normal at the start of his turn. So it's like a Fulmination Conduit a little bit in that way, but in a different mechanic. And I like this mechanic a lot more because you can I feel like you can get profit from it much easier, and it's and there's some kind of cool combos you can do with this. I feel you can do these combos too with Fulmination Conduit. The issue with the Fulmination Conduit is that it costs so much. So like you can do all this tempo theft and even like Mystic Altar using Mystic Altar is on creatures. God damn that bloody Mystic Altar. I want it to work. And but there's a few things you can do to increase countdown, like Infiltrate and such. But it doesn't work too well with the Fulmination Conduit as a splash thing, because the conduit costs so much that it's like if you're gonna go that high in resources to use a conduit, you might just not use conduit. But this costs 1, so you can kind of do a few splash things with that while using things like infiltrate and such to cheaply reach a higher and such. It has some splash potential, and I like the just for the solo purpose in mono decks as well. With that, you can always be highly resourceful. It's like often turn you get 1 resource left, or you get 2 resources left, and so on. When you're playing, you can just keep on pumping into this gem every turn, and you will keep on having no resources unspent until someone killed the gem, so to speak.
Or does anyone have any thoughts about that? That is too advanced for me. I would just...
If I were a new player and my opponent played this, it would take me my entire turn to figure out what on earth it did.
That is why I said the description needs to be shortened heavily. The description.
I think there's ways to word it cleanly. Like I think.
Okay, so give me like 2-sentence description of what this card does.
No,
Okay.
because well, maybe Counter can do that, but I need.
I know you need like 4 cards, like, and the backs of the cards.
No, I need 10 minutes to think of a way to
It's
shorten
a
it.
useless contraption that saves all of your resources at the end of your turn, and you get them back at the start of your next turn. If your opponent kills it, it does damage equal to how many resources it had saved. Was that 2 sentences?
That's
Something
close
like
enough. I understand.
Isn't
That's
that a
pretty
little
dope.
bit powerful for a 1
That's
cost?
very-
Oh yeah,
That is
it's
really
a strong
powerful
card.
for a 1 cost.
It's a strong card.
It needs like
But
1
it's a
health.
cool one.
All right, next card.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's.
Let's move
it's quite
on.
good.
I'm alive. Sweeping Change. That is your card, Cantor, or at least your pick.
All right, sweeping change. Right. Okay, so I picked that one out.
Can we just read it real fast? I don't
I
remember.
believe it's from. Who's this from? It's from like someone who's fairly well known. Squiddy. I think Squiddy made this.
Oh
one.
yeah, I read it now.
I think so. So this is universal redesign, and it lasts
massive
until the
redesign.
end of your opponent's next turn. Yeah. So I think it's really cool because it's got a lot of play to it. We don't really know, like, there's a lot of ways that this can be used. It sort of acts like a, if you just consider most units have 1 more health than they have attack. So if it'll change all your like 2/3s into 3/2s and all your like 3/4s into 4/3s, but that he does that for both sides. So it's sort of like
Iron
like
Bile.
Crimson Bull.
Or
Yeah, it's sort of like an Iron Bile or a Crimson Bolt.
Okay.
Like it, all your stuff will probably get about 1 attack, and all their stuff will go down in health by about 1. So you end up like a net bonus of 2, but that is applied to you as well on the next turn. It also has combos with Sickening Fumes. Yeah, Sickening Fumes, Sweeping Change is like pretty sweet. It's pretty expensive, and it's multi-resource, so all those things help to balance it a bit. What other things can you do with it? Like I think it's interesting. It doesn't like it's redesigns an effect that's interesting that they added to the game, but just doesn't cut it. Like you just can't use it. So it's a way to like bring that effect into actual use, which I think is pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Any
cool
of you
idea. I
guys
like
have
it.
thoughts?
I like it. I think obviously it would have to be experimented with to see how strong those combinations were. But maybe you could play it with Atrophy, guys. Maybe we could play Atrophy.
Atrophy redesign. It's the best removal in the game.
And you can like Sweeping Change Thunder Surge or something to wipe out a bunch of like 2/3s, potentially. Expensive, but combos. You can do stuff.
It's all about the combos.
It kills the Nuru right off, guys.
That's true. It does kill Nuru.
One shot Nuru
like,
removal.
by itself. It's pretty sweet.
All right, that's legit. We can probably move on. I mean, do you wanna-
Yeah.
Yeah, I do
I
not
don't
have
have
much
anything else.
comment about it. I feel pretty much the same as you. People.
All right,
That one.
let's
All right.
move on to growth. I go with growth.
This will probably go
Growth wins
fast
the
as
lottery.
two of us have same card.
That's good planning.
I can actually
So
just
now
start
for
talking
some
while it's
awkward
coming up.
silence.
Let's go.
Because my card is Magpie's card, and I know what it does, even though it's not on the screen yet. So
Well, we
it,
should wait
Are
for
you a
the
magician?
anyways for the viewers.
but the viewer's already seen it. There's just a delay,
Yeah.
and my card does
We haven't
resistance,
seen it.
I suppose so. Okay.
and so it gives all your units resistance, which is the way he came up with it was.
Should probably say what the card is
thinking
called.
about
Clever.
the card. I forgot what it was called, which is why I didn't say. But it's Woodland Sanctuary now. Woodland Sanctuary, guys, and it's supposed to fix growth versus growth, where you just quake each other into oblivion over and over. And so we were talking about this. Potentially, this card maybe has some balance challenges because you can like play it and then Frostwind for free, quake, and only take 1 point of damage on your creatures every turn. So that's kind of rough. And so. That's a con, but the pro is that it's an interesting idea to kind of give the spell resistance across the board, defensive structure, and I would definitely consider playing it in a growth deck myself, which made it draw my eye.
Yeah, Ghostbomb just said 2 Woodland Sanctuaries and you're immune to your own quake.
Yeah, that's
Do you
why
think that, Alan?
the idea that we were thinking about is maybe make it apply to both sides, because then all you're really screwing yourself out of if you play growth is being able to quake their side, right? So you can do a quakeless growth where you're immune to burns, and in exchange you just don't get to run quake. Did that make sense? Did I explain that properly? So both sides be affected by the sanctuary.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think it's a decent idea for a scroll. I just don't think it belongs in growth. Like, I think it's better to have it in another faction to protect them from the quake instead of protecting growth from their own quake. Because being able to combine things with your own stuff instead of like interacting with your opponent's stuff is better than interacting with your own things. If you interact with your own things, then you're not interacting with your opponent, which makes games less fun.
But what
Oh,
seems
sorry, I'm getting a call.
the thing that appears to me is that
Just
it
a
would
minute.
potentially. Yeah, you can mute your mic.
Sorry.
It would if so, let's say I'm playing growth and I'm going to be running this card because I don't want to get quaked by other people playing growth, and I'm not going to be running quake, which means that when I'm up against order or whoever else, I won't have quake in my deck. Assuming that we did the change where we made it so that it affected both sides of the board, and then you wind up with less quakes overall in the metagame, and potentially that card becomes less mandatory.
Should probably be a little bit higher cost.
Sorry about that.
I think that resistance can exist in growth. I do not see a flavor problem with that. The resistance, I just having the feeling in resistance in overall, it's a okay thing. It needs some balancing and such, as you said. Maybe it should affect both boards and that kind of stuff. But overall, I'm finding the whole notion a bit. It's again falls in the a bit boring category, but I could see it work. It could definitely be good and useful.
Yeah, I don't know if I feel like that scroll by itself is OP, or if it would maybe even make the cut. Growth usually wants to be aggressive, and this thing isn't very aggressive. But the fact that it interacts with Growth's own scrolls instead of interacting with your opponent's scrolls makes it awkward, makes it potentially a bad sort of design space. Anyway.
But the thing is, growth is so terrified of Thunder Surge and stuff. All sorts of spells like that really affect the way you can play in the late game. And if you could put this down, then suddenly a Thunder Surge isn't anywhere near as scary. And so I think it does serve a major defensive role in matchups like that. I don't know.
Growth shouldn't really be that defensive, though. I mean, growth is all about offense, really. It's about killing stuff, like Kenter said. It's not about defending against being killed.
Well, sort of, but they are a bit mixed like that. They have a lot of healing. Healing I consider is very defensive. sort of.
Yeah,
in
you look
their
at
own
your
way.
like burial ground and stuff.
So
I
it's
think
like
just a side that
they're
hasn't
not
been
all
explored.
about offensive. It's just that it needs to be very naturey.
Yeah, I think there's room for like them to add enough scrolls to allow you to build a defensive growth deck. I think that would actually like help the it would
Okay.
help the yeah. I know we need to move on over.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to blitz on to see how fast we can do this. I knew this would happen. Anyway, is that vital veins? All right, my short. I be honest. I tried to find something really cool growth scroll. I had a hard time finding a cool growth scroll. Although I admit I didn't manage to go through all the scrolls in time. Bad on me. I'm ashamed. Anyway, what I like with the scroll is that it's a bit like a infectious blight, but on your side as an enchantment, and that I find is a cool mechanic. I find that interesting. I'm not sure if it's balanced or useful or anything, but I like that mechanic. I like to see it seen.
My question is, what is going to kill the thing that has this on it? If it's only it's like it has to be damned, or it has to have low enough health that it's going to die to a burn, or it has
Just
to
kill
get
it with a creature. It dies.
But if you
from-
get killed with a creature, it doesn't pass the enchantment on. So that's why I think maybe it should be the other way around almost. But then it's like impossible to kill with poison. I don't know.
Yeah, I think if you need to kill it with something, then melee combat it becomes really difficult for example, growth. Growth will have a hard time. It's like, what can they do? Quake? They need to quake it away.
I just don't see it ever getting passed on in its current format because like the only thing that's going to pass it on is a direct damage, like not a direct damage, is like a damning or something, some kind of instant removal. Because it's always gonna, if it has enough health to begin with, it's not gonna die to your like burns and stuff. It's not gonna die to poison damage.
I picked this one out as well, and just because I think it's like the whole applying the idea of infectious blight to other enchantments. I think is a good way for them to be able to push the like enchantments that don't screw you over thing. I think Vital Winds would actually be balanced even if it had no conditions on which it doesn't pass on. If it just always passes on, that would probably be fine. It just heals the unit. And then you can get rid of it by killing all of their stuff so it has nowhere to go. Yeah, I just like the idea that it being able to keep your enchantment going for a while. Yeah.
It
Okay,
I think would
shall we
honestly
move on then?
wind up being more useful just with the mystic like attack buff than anything else, just because it would make sure that you always have things buffed by your mystics. But to be honest, like the reason healing cards don't work very well in growth is that like most things just end up dying in one hit anyway. There's not a lot of stuff that it's like attacked one turn and then attack the next turn. That just doesn't happen all that often. So that's the drawback with.
Well,
just
to be
pure
fair,
healing.
it's not like it's only growth. Like Order has some of the most beefy
Absolutely.
units, and I don't even use healing for them. It's an overall
Well,
problem.
you do indirectly. Imperial Resources has like the healing effect of Imperial Resources.
Well,
is not,
okay,
is
sure,
valuable.
sure. Yeah, sure. I'm not gonna argue against that. Okay, shall we move on to next rules?
Sure.
Like you're the one moving on now. Alright, since we
I
can't
also-
see the scrolls ourselves. What? Cantor?
While we're waiting for the next set of scrolls to come up, there was a scroll that I couldn't find it, so we don't have it on the list. But as like a third growth scroll, there was one that gave like it was like an enchantment. It gives like a +2 attack or something. Maybe it was like +1/+1, but it also gave like pillage. Return this enchantment to your hand, something like that, which I thought was kind of neat. So
how much did it cost?
I forget. I think it was something like it was like close to a champion ring or something like that. It might have even actually only given like one turn, but
Oh, this is great.
Hmm?
I'm looking at the card you people have picked. The two cards you have picked here for Decay were the one I were considering over the one I picked. So, I approve. I approve.
Good work, Badgers.
Nice.
You should have picked mine then.
That's
Neil.
high five.
Mine was like the one I picked, except different, except more broken.
Or should we
Okay,
just
so
move on to the decay ones?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Let's go.
Alright.
multiply. Who picked
Sorry,
multiply?
Kent.
I picked.
Like you're
Multiply.
taking over my host job here, the Overlords.
Oh, yeah. Right.
We need
We've
speed
also been
tempo.
taking over your job a little bit. Multiply. So target unit is replaced by 2 of the same creature on random tiles. Random tiles. Okay, with attack and health halved and rounded up. So, you're at a loss.
3
on
health
stats,
witch doctors.
But yeah, you can make. So you'd end up paying 9. You'd get 2 3 health witch doctors and 3 attack witch doctors, or not. Yeah, 3 attack witch doctors. Which is kind of cool. I think it. I don't know what happens if you use it on Nuru. Like, does the first one spawn and then the second one kill the first one that spawned? Or do you get 2 of them? I don't know.
I imagine that they'll probably die, right? Or that's maybe just.
I imagine they'd happen in order. I think it would generate 1, and then when the second one generates, it kills the first one because they would both be unique still. So they'd both be Nuru, just there'd be weak Nurus.
It'd be cool to use it on like a Sister of the Owl, because you play the Sister of the Owl, 2 owls pop out, and then you make 2 new Sisters of the Owl, and 2 more new owls pop out from each, so you wind up with 6 owls, like Sisters of the Owl with 1, 2 health respectively.
Maybe. I don't know. The wording doesn't actually say that it does that, because it's replaced by 2 of the same creature. It doesn't say that you spawn
Say
them.
that it's re-summoned. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't give you the summon effects necessarily.
I guess I just wonder how they'd implement it. If it, like, because just saying it's replaced, like, every other card kind of destroys and resummons, and sometimes, like, if there's not room for 2 units, I don't know.
Yeah,
Not
it
exactly
should have
how
a
it works.
slight wording change. It should say sacrifice target creature, and then
Dude,
2 creatures are summoned that are the same.
This is also something I can say to many cards I have read there. It's like you need to be very specific on the wording. Many times I read like increase these in countdown or resources. Like you need to say value or base. It's a big factor if it is a value or base.
Well, Mojang will make sure that those are all.
Yeah,
Making
but I'm
sense
just saying
before they
it's a
actually
good
happen.
thing to think about when you're doing this. Anyway, what I think about multiply, it's again one of those like, is it underpowered or is it overpowered? I'm honestly not sure. It should be. It should not be weak. Is my feeling. It should be good.
Squiddy came up with some good little combos in the chat. He's talking about multiplying Oblivion Seekers. The one dies, and then you have 2 more that can get you cards.
Yeah, it's just that
Oh,
there's. It's just that there's
That was
so
really
many.
good.
It's like there's so many things you can do with multiply that it's hard to fearcraft about it. There's so many combinations. So it intrigues me and I like it. Shall we
Especially
move
if
on?
it said sacrifice. Like if it said sacrifice, you'd get the 2 draws from the Oblivion Seeker, and then you'd get 2 1/2/2s
Yeah.
that are each draw you 2 cards when they die, which is
I have an idea.
insane.
What if instead of destroying that unit and making 2 more, it just cut that unit's health in half and spawned 1 more? In other words, it wouldn't do a total of 3 units, it would only do 2. Does that make sense?
That would probably make more sense.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Okay, so
Anyway.
shall we move on
Yeah.
to the next scroll?
Nur's Mask. Enchanted creature gains Terrify and its health is increased by 1. Who picked
And,
this?
I picked it. Terrify, what it does, and it's why I picked it. Terrify is basically giving Horn of Ages to a unit. That unit that gets the Terrify, he's Horn of Aging the opponents on the row there. I was a bit on the fence if this was really my kind of favorite here, but I did really like what you can do if you had that mechanic, because I know how strong Horn of Ages and Dryadic Power and Binding Roots, how strong they can be. It's just that they are often not worth it. This, you could do some cool stuff with this. For example, it's not just that you're, in that case, locking down the opponents in that row. It also means that your opponent cannot move other units into that row. So you're not only you're not just saying these units need to stay on this row. You're also making sure that the opponent cannot move other units into those rows as well. You can use it both offensive and protective. I think it has a lot of interesting uses. You can do some cool combinations with that. I'm not sure if it will be worth it, but I liked the idea to have that terrify ability. It basically,
Yeah, I agree.
It decreased the movement. With what is it?
Alright. Well, should we just go on if no one else has any thoughts on that?
Well,
There's-
does Cantor at least have one thought of it?
At least one thought.
I usually have at least one thought.
Well,
Yeah.
what do you think about the art style?
The what?
I'm just joking. I was just saying, what do you thought about the art style? Like it has
The art
no-
style. That's the word.
It has no
art
relevance.
style. Okay. I'm not sure what it is, honestly. It looks like a headless knight with a spike where his head was.
Okay, you have nothing to comment.
Yeah, dude. Duh.
Yeah, there it is. All right. Yeah, no, the comment is I think it fits Decay quite well because they have a lot of negative row effects. So you can basically you're going to want to terrify your Blightbearer a lot of the time. Be like, nah, we got this. I don't know if it's.
And it can make them
I don't
kill
know if it's
something
good
that
enough.
they
I
don't
don't
want to
think it
kill.
is,
You
but-
know, like it can make them kill the unit that's going to set off your harvester, make them kill your Blightbearer, stuff like that.
It's like you do not have to use it on a Blightbearer. You can use it like, for example, on a Witch Doctor and have a Oblivion Seeker in front of the Witch Doctor as an example of something.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
too
you
bad
put it
that
on
it
something.
has like. It's too bad it says creatures, so you can't use it on puppet soldiers. I wish you could just terrify your puppet soldiers.
I'm not sure you actually want to give Terrify to something you want to die, because that would still be 2 cards. You're removing. Anyway,
Oh man, I'll totally pay 2 cards to get that to have my puppet soldier go off.
then
on
use
a big
what
card.
Purple Pansy is doing in that case. Purple Pansy is Horn of Aging puppet.
Of Agency?
soldier,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
this way you
just
can do it all
that.
in Decay.
And anyway, okay. So, alright, sacrifice to the gods!
This is
Yes.
Blinky's card.
Well,
So
that's
it's clearly
needs to be
some,
highlighted or something.
Yeah, it's some like
The rig.
insider.
Just so
There's clearly
everyone
some
knows.
insider trading going on
Everyone
here.
knows. This
You know
is
that.
Hate us.
Blinky's card, just so everyone knows. Okay.
It's
Good.
Blinky's card, guys. Full disclosure.
Yeah.
And
The only
it
Badger
kills.
card in this that we put in, I think. You know, there's a
Actually,
Magpie.
I picked Magpie's card too, so I'm just a,
Alright,
just a
what does
Badger
sacrifice
fanboy.
of the gods do?
Sorry, guys. It kills stuff on your side, it kills stuff on their side, and then it does it. It's like a surge. It picks some at random. The thing is that
Shall we
I should
actually
explain this
read
better.
the description?
surge destroy X number of random creatures on your side of the board, where X is the surge value. For each creature destroyed this way, destroy a random opponent creature. So the reason that's kind of cool, in my opinion, is that like if you've got 5 creatures and he has 3 creatures, and you can't find a way to spend all your mana, like if you have 8, you could potentially kill off all of your own dudes and only 3 of his, you know? So it's like you have to figure out creative ways to spend your mana to get to the position where you use the surge properly, which I think is interesting. And it also, you know, it fits with the decay flavor. It could make for some gamble plays, I guess. Maybe that's not a good sign. Like if you have your harvester out and some other units, you could gamble, use this card, and hope that things that are not the harvester die. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
My initial thought is that in mono decks, when it comes to mono decks, this is balanced and cool, and I like it. But I'm pretty sure you can make some kind of draw deck kind of thing where this becomes a sort of end of reason thing, where you spam out like Rat King and then just wipe the opponent's board all the time.
Well, Blink
I'm-
did make it, so a draw deck is not impossible.
So like I could easily see this as some kind of draw deck thing where you have Sister of the Fox and Rat King, and then you use this to remove your sheep token creatures to remove the opponents to get board presence, and then use some better stuff.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Would that be balanced? I don't know, maybe. But just mono deck to mono deck, I think this is cool and balanced and great.
I think
but
even in that example though, like I don't see any potential for OP-ness in like the Sister of the Owl instance,
Well, you
because
get
there's an
huge
equally good
head.
chance that
You-
you can like kill your Sister of the Owl off. And the other thing is like it's already the case with the End of Reason deck that you have to like keep their board presence down, and that's just the way it would be here too. Like if you knew you were playing against that deck, you'd know that you had to kill their dudes if you could, because if he only has 2 little tokens out, he can only kill 2 things.
But it's like it's massive value. You use a Rat King and whatever sheep creatures you can put out, and those sheep creatures, each one, like what can they kill to go backwards in value? It's enough that they kill a bloody ducal infantryman, and it was worth. It gives massive value in those
Yeah.
kind of decks.
I'm gonna agree with Overlord and say that I think it's a little bit too easy to kind of trade up with this kind of scroll, that your husk dies for a Witch Doctor maybe, and that even though it is random, there must be some ways to kind of plan it out in a way. And it might be a little bit too much RNG for competitive play if in like mono decay decks, but surely could be some sort of draw deck that uses this to clear the board.
I'm okay with these kinds of RNG. It's why I'm also kind of okay with the RNG when it comes to sudden eruption, because it's controllable RNG. It's a RNG you can control. Okay, I'm not gonna sidetrack with RNG. I'm just gonna say I'm okay with these kinds of RNG that you can control over.
Yeah.
That at least is not a concern of mine. Cantor, your input. Great insight. Please, now.
Oh, thank you.
Hurry.
At least one
my
thought,
input-
man.
At least one thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, everyone's talking
one.
so much. I need to wait my turn. Anyway, so thoughts on this scroll. When Overlord was saying that it seemed balanced in a mono deck and like broken in a like combo or draw deck, I was sort of looking at the same but like toned down a bit. I was thinking it's like probably not good enough for you to play in a mono deck, but like if you got Rat Kings, yeah, you can do something. We can make something happen. There's like some cool things we can do. But yeah, I think it's pretty expensive, but in the right situation, it can give you very good value. It can give you very good return in the right situation. But like you need to have the Rat Kings, you need to have the Husk tokens. But like if you have a bunch of Husk tokens, you're gonna have trouble. Like, how did you get them? Like, did you get them from a Witch Doctor? Then you don't want to kill your Witch Doctor, et cetera, et cetera. So tricky. I think it's a fun scroll though. I think it could make I wouldn't be unhappy until I ended up playing against the deck that just like kills everything forever. Until I play against the GD sweepers that adds this in.
Yeah.
Like it could get a bit silly in GD sweepers, but that's a cool deck too. So
Yeah. This is really fun scroll. You know, it's like sometimes it doesn't just sit and pray that does take your 3 husks instead of your Witch Doctor, and then it does take his Witch Doctor, and that is 1 husk. So it seems like it could be a fun scroll. Really, it has that fun factor to it, you know. But competitive, maybe not.
yeah, I think it's a lot. Hellspitter Mortar. That's the word I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it's like
Has
having
something
6
in
of
common
those.
with Hellspitter.
Yeah.
It's like having 6
It's
of
not
those.
people
at
love
all
each
like
side.
Hell's
Some people love
Beater.
it, some people hate it.
Don't mention Hellspitter's RNG with something like this.
Can we talk about a Hellspitter?
I like
This is my
Hellspitter.
suggestion
Hellspitter's
for energy. Let's have a Hellspitter mortar that's like it costs like 6 and it shoots like 4 of them at once, but they can land on either side of the board, or like something ridiculous, like a Gatling Hellspitter. That's what I'm looking for.
I like that. I like that idea. But like, it's not even a unit. It's just a spell.
Good meteor storm.
Yeah.
Is there a reason they don't let us design creatures? Is it just like they want?
I'm pretty sure
They
it's
probably will
because of
later.
I think it's because of expenses. It's they have stated it's relative more expensive for them to make creatures than it is to make other kinds of scrolls. So that's just my guess, but I got no clue. I don't know.
Because there was a cool creature that was posted in just the Reddit. I am completely sidetracking us and wasting time, but there's this cool. They were talking about a mystic stag. It would come into play and like be equipped with a stag heart. I thought that was cool.
Anyway, I'm gonna just assume this was the last scroll we were supposed to talk about because we were going to skip the ones we had made ourselves, where we picked one of our own, which is probably the best because we could probably go into some in-depth discussions with our own cards, and we don't have time for that. But I just want to do this. I want to give 2 honorable mentions. And yes, it will go quite fast because I like the idea with this. It's just that I just didn't pick them. One is that, and this has been hovering for a while, is the idea of invisibility. I like the idea of invisibility if you just do it correctly, so it's not imbalanced or anything. So that is one honorable mention. I like the whole invisibility ID cards, and then I like the card that had because that's something I kind of want to see when it takes more than 1 tile for the unit to be on the board. So let's say it takes 2 tiles. So instead it's just moving with 1 tile like this. It has to move like this with 2 tiles. That could be a kind of cool dynamic to have on the board, and I would like to see that at some point.
Yeah. All right. So
When did we
stream
start?
is.
If that's
We
so.
started around. I mean, we were just 5 minutes late, I think.
So we're
usual
only
time.
10 minutes over. That's fine.
Yeah.
We're usually
I'm
10
gonna-
minutes over. It's alright.
Yeah. So are you guys up for like? I mean, Ludwig, you can talk about the scroll if you just continue after. I just want to close it up by plugging all stuff and having some final thoughts. That's alright with you?
Yeah, I was done with my honorable mention.
Yeah, but if we want to talk about our own scrolls, the one you designed yourselves, all of you free. Talk about it.
Well,
I think
sure. We can talk
I'm busy after the
after
cast, so
I gotta go eat dinner,
it'd be nice to
guys.
wrap
Busy
up.
man.
Yeah,
All this talking made me hungry.
Alright, guys.
there's plenty of other things I'd have to
Guys.
say for quite a while, but gotta get going, so we should wrap up.
Shame Cantor and Clever for not being an after.
I
Just saying. Alright, so then I would like to finish this off. We talked about all of the scrolls. Sorry, man. So, final thoughts are, not really much final thoughts in this. I mean, is there any of these scrolls you specifically would like to be added in the game, like right now, that we've talked about? Like you think is...
the only one that actually really intrigues me, that I would kind of like to have in the game, is that stone, disruptive stone thing. I would kind of like to see that. The rest, I like them, but I'm a bit on the fence. But my only final thought is that no, it's gonna be too long-winded. I have no real final thoughts.
Alright. Well, let me just close up the stream by plugging the stream itself. Twitch/The Badger Guild. You're watching it right now. Put a follow. We stream every Friday, this podcast, and we have a schedule where several of our guild members stream. I don't know the schedule right now, but
It's under
just
there.
follow.
It's like you can just scroll down.
yeah, it's right under.
Just scroll down, it's there.
Follow, and you will get a notification every time someone streams. And the Heart of Scrolls YouTube channel, where we don't use that anymore. We use the Badger Guild channel, do we? Or do we use both? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either.
Yeah.
They
Well,
both
anyway,
exist.
we
It's a
use
part
they're
of
both.
something.
Yeah.
Badger Guild one.
It's the Badger.
You should subscribe to both of them. So,
Yeah. You should
what difference does it
definitely
make? Really?
subscribe to both. Yeah.
Subscribe
exactly.
to it all!
There you go.
Yep. All right. And Cantor, you have Twitch. You probably want to plug yourself, I assume.
Well, my Twitch is twitch.tv/trustyfish, but it's been pretty inactive lately. Like I said, I've been busy with other things. It'll probably be a couple weeks before I'm back streaming, but I do intend to get back to streaming. So you can, when I do that, you can check me out there.
Yeah. Right, Clever.
Be a good
You're
time.
doing a whole thing now.
Yeah, I'm
With
streaming
the-
some silly games, trying to beat trials, and then eventually we're gonna go through ranked with Decay. Should be a blast. So that's twitch.tv/clever_us. And that's that.
All right, I want to plug the Owl stream tomorrow with Blinky and Orangey. That's gonna be fun. Most probably so. Go follow twitch.tv/theowlstream. I think that is. Probably Blink is gonna correct me in chat if I'm not correct. And that's about it for plugs. Thank you to our guests, Cantor, the Overlord, and Clever, for being here. Thank you to Ice Cream for dealing with technical stuff, putting up the stream, and being an overall pretty person. And thank you all our viewers here on Twitch right now and on YouTube watching this later. Love you all. I'm sure we all love you all. I'm sure you all love us. And let's have some happy times and play Scrolls. That's all I have to say. It's ended on a pretty emotional note.
I'm just so emotional.
I just love.
Thank you to Blinky for having Skype Premium.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
So
And all the other
for
stuff that he
Blinky,
does.
you couldn't see our faces.
All
right.
guys.
Wraps it up.
Thank you. It
See you.
wouldn't exist.